designed the user experience and managed product development. Sudhanshu did his bachelor's in applied science, computer science, with a minor in engineering and entrepreneurship from the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at the University of Pennsylvania. Sudhanshu's presentation will continue for the next 45 minutes, and we will take your questions in the last 15 minutes. You can post your questions in the meanwhile on techgeek.com or through the chat available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce to you our guest speaker, Sudhanshu Agrawal.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Sudhanshu, we can hear you. Actually, we are unable to see your screen.
It should be showing my screen now. Can you guys see the presentation?
No. Yep.
Okay. For me, audience view still is 100% that they're not. Can you guys clarify that?
We can see your screen, but I mean, it's in a. You can make it full screen, right? Can you hear me now?
Yep, it is full screen right now.
Okay. Yes, you can go. You can start off the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sudhanshu, and I am the founder of Fizzy Software, and I used to work at Zynga, which, as all of you might know, is one of the largest gaming companies on the internet today. And I just wanted to, first of all, thank TechGig for giving me the opportunity to share my experience and some insight in the social gaming industry with you guys. Today I'll just be going through a little bit about myself, what I've done, what we are doing in India right now, my take on social gaming, what made it work for Zynga, external and internal factors and things I saw at Zynga which made it work for Zynga. I will try to take you guys through Rewardville, which is Zynga's newest endeavor in social gaming and trying to reconnect social gaming and broaden it across multiple platforms. And then just talk to you guys about what I think are the key 3 things in social gaming that everyone should be focusing on. So to get started, let's So, first of all, I just want to make clear that everything I talk about and present is my personal view, and it is not the view of Zynga. And please do take everything I say with a grain of salt. These are just my personal experiences, and as in every case, there are exceptions. So hopefully you guys will learn a bit, benefit a bit from this, and be able to, and hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions you might have about social gaming, about mobile gaming, and just product development in general. So a little bit about myself. I founded Fizzy Apps in 2007, and that company made Facebook and iPhone games. And our biggest apps had about 7 lakh users, and we ended up selling those back in 2007. Now the problem back then in the industry was that it was a very small industry. There weren't any big advertisers. There weren't any big companies that knew how to monetize all these products. I did this when I was in college. So after studying, I joined Zynga, where I worked as a product manager. And my division was called Rewardville, which was a new product division at Zynga. We were working across platforms, trying to figure out how to leverage Zynga's brand and how to grow it across different platforms. So Rewardville is one of the products that is actually out now from that division. And I recently moved back to India to start Fizzy Software, which is a product-based company. We work on web and mobile-based products and games. We have a very lean team right now of about just 5 people, and we're looking to expand. We're constantly hiring, great talent. And if anyone is interested later on, I'd be free to answer any questions you guys might have. So social gaming for any one of you hopefully is not really a new space. You have a bunch of companies around the world working on different aspects of social gaming. You have Zynga, which is the leader in social gaming right now. But then you have Playfish, Playdim, SGN, Dana, NG Moco, a bunch of companies working on social gaming. A lot of companies which started out as something different have also started focusing on social gaming now, like HeyZap. And then you have companies that are trying to build cross-platform products like OpenFaint. They want to be able to leverage a social network in all these social games or mobile games. So in my experience, social gaming has these 5 key points that I have seen mostly across games. A lot of these games have been turn-based games where these games allow people to interact whenever they have time. All the games we've played before this, like Counter-Strike or World of Warcraft, are active games. People need to be constantly engaged. I need to sit down in front of the computer for an hour in order to, play the game and achieve something in the game. Whereas in these new breed of social games, it's become very easy. I can spend time whenever I have that time, and I can take my part, I can take my actions, and then just leave it. And then, the game just progresses based on when people take actions. So it definitely helps to be more involved, but it doesn't really hamper me, or it doesn't really break the game mechanics if I don't have time to sit down for an hour and play the game. The other thing is awareness, that in all these games, they've spread through multiple platforms. They've used so many different layers and channels in all these platforms to make users aware of what has been happening in those games. Just imagine that without Facebook's notification system or request system or the feed system, these games would not have been able to grow even 10% probably of what they are today. It was just these channels of communication that made it possible that if I am playing a game today, I want to share that information. I want to make my friends aware of what I am doing. And these channels basically allowed gaming companies to even spam and just get more users, because it was definitely way more interesting maybe 2 years ago to get a post in your newsfeed saying, hey, a friend of mine needs some help, let me just click this button and help them out. It also touched the altruistic causes. People were more likely to just help other people. Even it just took a click to help your friends. So all these channels definitely help grow these companies, and every company tried to figure out what would make these channels work. What is the best way to maximize return from these channels. Facebook definitely did start bolting down on things you could and couldn't do using these channels, and started rate limiting these channels so that they could control some spam, they could control the viral growth and stuff, and add more value rather than just spam people. But even then, all these social games have thrived because of these channels of communication to make people aware. All these games have been very casual. All these games have targeted the mass market, and hence the casual gaming. These games aren't for the hardcore gamers who would like to play Counter-Strike for hours. Those games do require a lot more skill than these social games that we've seen. In these social games, anyone from a 10-year-old to a 70-year-old person can quickly get the grasp of the game, can understand what the game is all about, and go ahead and start interacting and playing the game, which makes it very easy that, oh, I am the one who is controlling this game, I am the one who's building this farm, and, other things like that. That's not to say that hardcore games have no value in social gaming. We will definitely see in the future that even with these type of games, there will be certain hardcore games where people will be adding a lot more value. People will be spending a lot more time getting trained and things like that. But hopefully it will be a mix of the social gaming and the hardcore gaming. Multiplayer. Now this should go without saying, like all these games definitely need to be multiplayer. You need people interacting with each other. That's what mankind has always wanted from the beginning, is basic interaction. And that's what all these games strive to provide. These games can be multiplayer across platforms. Like Zynga has started when they ventured onto the iPhone platform and stuff. One of the key things was that can we actually take that multiplayer experience? Can we take a good experience and make it multiplayer and then touch mobile phones? We didn't want to just port games to mobile phones for the sake of it. It's much easier when you can provide at least an optimal experience to people even across platforms. So even if you're building a multiplayer game, you always have to remember that no matter what your user base might try to access it from, whether it's SMS in a country like India, whether it's a mobile site, a web site, a smartphone application, or the full-fledged web experience, that's the end goal. You always want to think about the different segments that are there in your market, because even a bad experience for one market could really mess up your brand. So you'd rather not release something for that market, or you'd rather not have that functionality. But if you do provide certain functionalities to certain segments of the market, you have to optimize for that experience. And the last thing is social platform. This goes without saying that without Facebook, Zynga would not have been as successful. Social platforms have been the key to driving the growth in these games, whether it's Make33, which is a mobile-based platform, whether it's Facebook, which allowed Zynga to grow so much, or whether it's Haze app and other websites who are creating their own social platforms, who are creating games within their platforms by themselves. All these social platforms have made the job very easy. they've allowed us to use the network, which is the key part in a game, and they've basically leased out the network. So today, the reason that Facebook charges 30% is because they feel that they've built enough value and they're adding enough value by giving people access to that network. So in that case, you definitely want to try to leverage, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, any networks you can get access to. You want to leverage that when you're building your social games. So Zynga's success, the way I view it, had two key factors. One being the external factor. And these were things like Facebook, which basically allowed Zynga to leverage the network, which I mentioned was the key part in, building a social game. The second thing is Amazon Web Services. So for those of you not familiar with Amazon, Amazon provides the most powerful cloud computing out there today. And Zynga had openly acknowledged that initially it would have been impossible to scale without Amazon support. No one has scaled games to the volume that Zynga had experienced. So it was a completely new challenge that all these companies had to face. It was a completely new task, even for Amazon, to see how much computing these games require. And it's not just that these games require computing because of the graphics and 3D engines and stuff, but there's a lot of data being generated. Zynga estimated about 1 terabyte or petabyte, I forget, but of data that they generate every day. Now that's a lot of data. So Amazon Web Services definitely has been a key to Zynga being able to scale. Now that being said, Zynga has also started moving things in-house for a while now. So the way Zynga would launch a game is that they would launch it on Amazon so that they can scale on demand. And once a game stabilizes, once they know that, okay, we expect 10 million users to be playing this game every day, then they would bring the game in-house on their own data centers, which they call something known as vCloud. And they've used open architecture for that. They've partnered with other companies, and that's one of the key reasons that Zynga is raising funds as well, that they want to build these massive data centers just like Facebook has in order to own their data and optimize and harness the data in a better way. The third success factor, in my opinion, was My Mini Life. My Mini Life, a lot of you might not be aware, was a small game that was started by, I think, 3 or 4 guys. And they had built this very solid gaming engine, which allowed them to build models and houses and stuff that you see in Farmville and other games today in a very easy way. It allowed them to scale it in a very easy way. And that was one of the key success factors, I think, that just buying out the company initially gave Zynga a lot of amazing talent and technology that has proven to be successful game after game, whether it's performance in the games, whether it's graphic qualities, whether it's being able to scale the games. I feel like these 3 factors have definitely helped Zynga a lot more than anything else externally. In terms of internal factors, I would say that Zynga has been very focused on everything they've done. Zynga has a great team of artists where you can see in the logos for yourself that whether it's Farmville and Farmtown. Farmtown, for those of you who might not know, is actually a older game. Farmtown came out before Farmville, but they had a few key problems with the game, one of them being art. The art in the game was not that good. And that's something that Zynga strived to perfect. They gave Farmville the best art possible. Everything and every detail in everything was taken care of. And as you can see in the logos, like, it clearly has a huge difference. The other thing that I have learned is that in gaming, you have this almost zen zone that you want to maintain. between time a user spends in your games and the difficulty in the game. So for example, let's say that if a user spends, only 5 minutes in a game, he will find a game like Counter-Strike too hard or too confusing, which is a frustrating thing for the user. The user does not want to feel that way. That's just a bad experience that you're providing. Whereas if you spend 5 minutes in a game and you just end up finishing the game, that was just too easy, which makes it almost, worthless for the user. And it also basically kills your game. That's it, you were done. So I think that is a key zone that Zynga figured out, that we need to cater our games based on our user's schedule, based on our user's timeline. So for example, in Farm Town when the game started, all you could do is come back every 12 hours to harvest your crops. And if you didn't come back in 12 hours, they would die. So there was that strict timeline of 12 hours that people had to follow. Whereas in Farmville, what the key difference that they announced was, hey, listen, we're not going to be rigid on our timeline. We are not going to say it's 12 hours. We are just going to give you different crops. And based on the value of the crop, the time will be decided by that. So if you want to use only 5 minutes, if you're spending only 5 minutes of your time every day on the game, then you just plant crops and you can harvest them in 5 minutes. So that way, they cater the game around a user's schedule. So a user, before leaving for the office in the morning, could plant crops, come back, in 8 hours, and then he could harvest his crops. And then he knows that, okay, now I'm going to be sleeping or I'm out for another 12 hours, so he could plant crops for another 12 hours. So that made a huge difference, and it allowed people to get a lot more comfortable in spending time with the game and not worrying about, that tomorrow they might lose everything. And the third thing is data. Zynga has one of the most intense data analytic teams I've seen. They measure every event, they measure every click and impression in their games that announced this event level tracking. And back then, there was no other solution for this. There was no company. You had your Google Analytics, but Google Analytics only tells you how much time a user has spent on the page or how many users have come on the page. But Google Analytics couldn't go deep enough and tell you what those users did, why did they do what they did, and what was the difference in actions, and other such key aspects which become very valuable when you start viewing this data across hundreds of millions of users. So that has been a completely in-house product, definitely with support from external companies who do provide graphing and other services for this data, because we're talking about billions and billions and trillions probably by now of records being generated every day. And in order to measure all that data, it takes some serious analytical chops. And the future of this data allows that, okay, tomorrow, even in a game, they can start personalizing these games, which means that if they know that myself as a user, who is on average likely to click every 3 times, a pop-up is shown, then they might present, an interesting pop-up to me in that order. And if they find that, okay, this set of users is more likely to click on gifting an item rather than buying an item, that's what they can show to those users. So I feel like any company, or there are a lot of opportunities even in the analytics and event measurement space, which a lot of people are missing right now. A lot of people don't know about these services, or they don't care enough to go ahead and measure these services. I would now like to, just tell you guys some more about Rewardville. So Zynga's biggest worry has always been that they're too dependent on Facebook. And that actually is the worry of any company building products for external people. If you're relying on someone, like if a photo sharing website is relying completely on Twitter because Twitter does not provide that functionality, that website will die if photo announces that functionality, or if Twitter announces the photo functionality. So it is definitely a very completely with another company's roadmap, with another company's vision, and basically you're giving them the control to drive everything. And after a company like Zynga became that big, Facebook started seeing issues with it. Facebook started seeing that Zynga was the highest advertiser on their network, that Zynga was the highest revenue generator on their network in terms of Facebook credits. And any company would be scared by this. And this caused a bunch of issues between Facebook and Zynga in terms of, how to proceed forward. And that is when Zynga took things in their own hands and decided that, okay, we need to define our future for ourselves. We need to be able to do whatever we want with our games and not just rely completely on one company, because it can go down the wrong way. And Rewardville was one part. Rewardville was a step towards that. If you haven't checked out Rewardville, you should definitely check it out. But Rewardville basically tries to build this reward layer across all the Zynga games. Now, there's no benefit of you playing on Facebook other than you can only play Zynga games on Facebook right now. But what Rewardville does is that the more you play Zynga games, the more it rewards you with external things and with exclusive gifts available only to you, which allows you to become a loyal customer. So in essence, it is a loyalty program where you get more tied into Zynga games rather than just Facebook and then Zynga. Zynga wants you to be able to communicate better with the brand, with the image of Zynga games, and have more fun playing Zynga games. And as an end user, obviously get more value that, if I'm playing Farmville, then maybe I should be playing Frontierville because I can cross-promote items and I can earn more things, rather than playing games at another competitor's website. So that is definitely a huge strength of building something like this and having access to that kind of a user base. So along with that, I would like to come to some trends that we've seen in social gaming. One of the most interesting things has been freemium. No one thought that the freemium model could work so much. Everyone was always under the impression that, oh, it's the console games where people pay $20, $30 up front for your games. Whereas Zynga's games have shown that, even in games, it makes a lot more sense to provide the games for free and then allow users to decide what's valuable to them and charge them for that. We've seen the freemium model work across many other websites like Evernote and Dropbox, where everyone is given access, to the free basic version, and then the faster you want to move up, the more features you want, you end up paying for it. So, especially for a market like India, where it's very hard to charge consumers based on just the consumer mindset, but also it's very hard to charge consumers because of the lack of proper infrastructure, of the lack of being able to charge customers over credit cards, or the lack of proper carrier billing integration solutions. It makes a lot more sense to launch something in India using the freemium model. The next thing is just this huge growth happening in the smartphones and tablets market. People know that smartphones and tablets are here to stay. We've seen smartphones being launched in the range of 5,000 to 6,000 rupees in India by Micromax and other carriers, which proves that Android is a big potential for a country like India. So definitely focus more on the smartphone and tablet market and build games for those, because we still don't have Indianized versions of a lot of games. We still don't have good games even on Facebook, cater towards the Indian audience. So I feel like smartphones and tablets can definitely open up a huge opportunity here. Multiplayer and social interactions is an interesting one because a lot of games, especially the big one like Angry Birds, is not a multiplayer game. It is a single-player game which has proven to be one of the largest successes on, in gaming, in mobile gaming. Even though that company today has over 200 million downloads, there is a certain end to it unless they do introduce, multiplayer or other features where people continue to interact. Because maybe, after an hour, after 2 hours of playing Angry Birds, people will get bored of it. So always try to focus, on building those multiplayer interactions, because even on websites like Facebook, studies have shown that if a user connects with 5 more people in your network, he is 200% less likely to leave your network. So apparently the magic number to connect with is 5. If you can make a person connected with 5 more people when he joins your network can sustain and it can keep growing. Word of mouth is an interesting one, again, because you really don't need to spend that much money on social gaming in terms of advertising and other features. If you have a good game, if you have a game that people enjoy, word of mouth definitely takes care of, growing virality in your games, which has been proven again and again by different games, by different web services that have become so popular. And lastly, it is a lot about luck. We launched games on Facebook back in 2007 where everything was too early for us. There was no ecosystem. There was no way to sustain the platform. And so it just turned out that, we were way too early in the market. And we didn't have the exact vision that a company like Zynga has proven to have. But even then, like a lot of times when you build a product, you want to make sure that your product is a good market fit, but it also has a great user experience. Because today, design and user experience have started mattering a lot more than they did before. That being said, I think, this is just a chart to show that mobile gaming is definitely a lot bigger opportunity in the coming years. Given that console gaming is also growing, I haven't really seen any big console gaming companies in India. And the other reason is that a console game to build, at least a good console game to build, costs hundreds of millions of dollars. And in comparison, a mobile game can be built for as low as $50,000. So yes, console game is a big player market, which with bigger rewards if your game is successful. But at the end of the day, if you're just an entrepreneur or a 2-person team trying to build a game or get something out in the market, definitely focus on either the online or the mobile gaming space, with mobile being the most interesting one right now. And definitely, I just want to hit on the point that there is always a way to add good in something. Zynga has shown this, that through Zynga.org, which is the non-profit division, they've constantly helped in giving back to society, whether it's wherever a natural disaster struck or whether it's through other means where they could help people. Companies have shown that it's not just about making money, but there are ways to give back. So, I mean, social entrepreneurship is definitely a huge thing, and it has a lot of potential in a country like India, where you could possibly build games for, reporting different potholes around the city, and maybe the government can then reward people who've reported the most potholes. I mean, that's a game in its simplest form with a very basic reward system, which should not be that hard to build and, support in a system like India's. These are just a few websites that I think people interested in the social gaming space should know about. Appdata.com and www.insidesocialgames.com. Inside Social Games is the most popular blog for social gaming data and news about social gaming. And AppData provides statistics like daily active users, monthly active users, game rankings for social gaming across the web. So, if you want to know which games are happening, which games are coming up, these websites are the ones you should constantly stay in touch with and, keep yourself up to date, because in our industry, a lot happens in a matter of days. And lastly, here is just my information. The most convenient way to get in touch with me is via email, but my phone number is there if anyone wants to chat or get some feedback about gaming. Our company is based in Gurgaon, and we, as I mentioned earlier, we are a web and product-focused company. We are just a product-focused company. We don't do service work for other people, but we are looking to hire great talent, people with game development experience, people with mobile development experience. So if any of you out there are interested in joining a company working in these fields, you can feel free to contact us at jobs@physisoftware.com. Thanks a lot for listening, and I guess I can open it up for questions if anyone has any.
Yes, Sudhanshu, we do have questions. This one came from Marilyn Jyoti. The question is, what is the biggest challenge as a product manager of a social game?
So that's a good one. I would say the biggest challenge as a product manager in general is combining everything, whether it's the technical side of things, whether it's figuring out, what will work, what won't work, and especially when you translate that to social gaming, I guess your biggest challenge is, figuring out the right gameplay mechanisms, the right designs that you want to introduce in your game, whether you want to design a pop-up system to keep, annoying people, what is the storyline of your game. Like as a product manager, you're involved in all these things. So I would say that, figuring out the right gaming mechanics based on what you know about your audience. A game like Cityville or Empires and Allies, which is Zynga's latest game, they focus a lot on, building a story, building a storyline and quests in the game, which allow the users to stay interacted. So if you have that story and the quests and that whole experience nailed down, it makes it a lot easier to put in the right graphics. You can always find good technical talent to build these things, but as long as you don't have that core story that you're building your game around, it will be very difficult for people to be engaged, in the longer period of time. Because obviously, as a game developer, you want people to play your game, for months or for years, whatever your goal is. So you need to have that story thought out for that year-long period.
Right. We have the other question from Kirtika.
Okay.
Can you please tell something about the technology and the programming languages in game designing and development, something which will work out for them to grow?
Sure. So I'll split this up into mobile gaming and social gaming. Social gaming on Zynga's end, the languages they used, it was a lot of, ActionScript, a lot of Java code being written for all these games. In terms of the hardcore, technical side of things, using Amazon, using RightScale to, grow these servers, obviously finding the best of the breed artists to design all your graphics and stuff. So, I would say in terms of art, definitely don't be cheap. Any software that your artists need or they feel they need should definitely be key. But yeah, in terms of social gaming, I think like Zynga used a lot of Flash and ActionScript, to build their games. And mobile gaming is an interesting one. There are a lot of open frameworks available for mobile gaming. The most powerful languages for mobile gaming is Lua. So definitely check out Lua, L-U-A. And, it seems to be one of the simplest and most powerful languages if you're building games. Otherwise, you have other game engines which are written in, C++ and other languages. Yeah.
Next question from Vardarajan. What is the primary objective of any social gaming, mainly from the user's perspective?
From the user's perspective, it's actually just all about, connecting with people, having fun while you're doing it, and competing with people. Like, as users in general, what we want is, we want to be able to connect with people. We want to be able to show that, okay, I'm better than you, which is one of the key things you notice in any Zynga games, is that at the bottom of every Zynga game is a friend ladder, which shows you how your friends are performing in the game, because that competitive nature is there in every one of us. So, we want to compete. I want to show you guys that I am better than you because I have 10 million coins in this game, which means that, oh, I have spent more time, I have more authority than you. So psychologically, those are the, things that go through a user's mind. No one is playing these social games for any other end result like money. There is no way to actually get money out of Zynga games. You're always just either spending your time or your money to keep building your cities and these things in these games. But yeah, I mean, as a company, obviously, it's all about making money and providing value to the users. But from the user end, I think these are the things the user focuses on. And entertainment is a huge part of it. Obviously, you want to enjoy playing that game and stuff. But ultimately, like, if you are really that addicted to a game that you're playing it for 4 hours a day, your ultimate satisfaction or your reward is the fact that you're proving to someone that you're better than them in the game.
This question is from Tarun. What all analytics were necessary for the game,
Okay.
and how do you measure the user experience trend? Is it like improving or reducing?
Okay, so that's interesting. User analytics is a big part of what I learned at Zynga, and basically in user analytics, what you want to see as a product manager or as a data analyst is what happened at every second of my page. So let's just take a simple example of Farmville, which hopefully everyone knows about. But on a Farmville game, the things that you would probably measure are things like, okay, when the game is loading, one, how much time is it taking to load? Okay, fine. You can measure that pretty easily. After that, if you show a pop-up, what happened to that pop-up? Like, did the user click on the X to close it, or did the user click on the OK button and accept the pop-up? And that is called event tracking. So in event tracking, you can basically use tools to track these kind of events. And a company like Zynga, you have to build all these tools in-house. So it's a lot of customized Google Analytics tracking and stuff, or you build your own tools where you want to track what happened with every pop-up. And maybe a pop-up was about spending money in the game. So what you can do is you can run trends and see, okay, maybe I don't ask my user to spend money initially. Maybe after 5 minutes in the game, I ask them, okay, now would you like to spend any money? So you can run these kind of analysis on different segments of users once you have that many users, and then figure out what's the optimal time to show these pop-ups to that user. So in that case, you've taken a simple data and you've expanded it and figured out what works. And the other type of analytics is A/B testing, which a lot of you probably are familiar with, but that's a very basic way to just figure out that, okay, if I show pop-up A and pop-up B, which one is getting a better click-through rate? And there are companies for A/B testing. One is Optimizely.com, which allows you to sign up for their service and do these kind of A/B tests. I don't know if Optimizely supports A/B tests in games and stuff, but again, at Zynga it was all custom built. Like, all these tests and everything were done using custom tools. But A/B testing and event tracking can definitely give you a lot more details about your user. Like, you want to track what your user enjoyed, what your user did, whether he clicked on something that he shouldn't have, and all these clicks and results of these clicks can give you a lot of insight. Like, let me just take another simple example, that if your user ends up clicking on, let's say, the sign up button, and nothing happens after that. Like, if you don't have a login, maybe something's broken over there. So those are the kind of things you can track that, like my user clicked, he signed up, but he never really got an email confirmation to verify his account. That means there's a problem in my emails being delivered. Maybe my emails are going to spam or something. So these kind of trackings allow you to track problems at every level in your product.
We have a question from Mr. Amit Gupta. The question is, how are you generating revenue or and the money making model for you as a Fizzy software?
Okay, so as Fizzy software, our focus is just on products, and every product might have a different revenue model. So if we build a mobile game, the mobile game might be sold on Apple Store, or we might have a freemium model where the basic game is free and we sell virtual goods inside the game. And there are other ways where we might look at advertising and sponsorships for products. But again, Fizzy Software is working on a bunch of products, and we actually are about to announce the launch of a new product that we've worked with Tata Teleservices and Value First. They've helped us in the back end. But again, every product has a different model. Some products honestly don't even have the model defined yet. But that's the part that we feel that once we have enough users, or as we evolve the product, some revenue model or some clarity will come up in the product.
We have a question from Sumit. I'm a college student, have a gaming site and some FB apps, and about 2 million users in 1 month. I want to expand. What can be done, not depending on Facebook forever?
So if you want to expand, first of all, I'd love to get in touch with you, Sumit. It seems like, if you have built apps and Facebook games, you probably have a good knowledge. Definitely get in touch with me at sudhanshu@fizzysoftware.com. But I would say that, don't worry about Facebook being a competitor. Don't view them as a challenge. Definitely try to grow as much as you can on Facebook, because even today, Facebook is the ultimate social networking platform. Google Plus is coming up. Google Plus has been pretty popular in India as of now. So, you definitely have a opportunity over there when Google Plus introduces their platform and opens it up for, game developers like you. But till then, I would say definitely try to grow as much as you can on Facebook. Try focusing on mobile gaming. We're getting into mobile gaming, so I'd love to chat more about that offline. But I would say for the Indian market, focus on mobile and wait for Google Plus to announce their platform.
All right, we have one more question from Merlin Jyoti. What is the demand for localized, like Indian flavored gaming?
So that's tough to put a number on, because I don't think at Zynga we ever did a study on, what the demand for a localized Indian game would be. But I feel like if someone comes up with games where, those are simple enough games that people can play on their Nokia phones or on their smartphones, they have a huge potential. No one has proven that yet, apart from cricket games, I think, which have been immensely popular in India. So, in that case, if you come up with a game, towards fashion, and you add some Indian flavor to it, that, in that fashion game, people, like girls and women, have to figure out something about saris and dresses. Or if you add a, game which is just themed as though it's like a mafia-style game, but like more, cater to the Indian theme, Indian dialogues, whether, Indian graphics, I think that can be a very interesting experience to see how the market reacts to it. But yeah, I don't have any exact numbers of what a demand for such games would be.
This question is from Madhusudan Rao. What is the impact of social gaming on children? Does it really helpful?
That's interesting. That actually ventures into, social gaming and education, I would say. I don't see any problem with children just playing social games as they are today. If anything, I feel like good learning experience, and it opens them up to technology and other things faster than anything else. But I feel like if social gaming combined with education, where you build a social game where maybe your child can learn basic math and stuff by playing a game, has a huge potential, and that is not just for the Indian market, that's a global market. So like that is definitely one of the segments that I would suggest people look at, and it's tough to get into just because of the sheer nature of the amount of content you need and things like that, and how do you make it fun. But I would say that if that is what the question was directed, like building social games for education, that has a huge potential. But otherwise, I mean, I am from the gaming industry, and I don't think that playing social games has any negative impacts as they are today.
This one is from Manish. What what is the user satisfaction criteria in social games? How do you calculate that?
So that's an interesting one. There is a book about Net Promoter Score, and that is a strategy that Zynga started following. That the Net Promoter Score is how happy a user is. Because if you are that happy in a game, you will talk to the game, you will talk to your friends about the game. So I definitely recommend reading the Net Promoter Score. In general, it's about how happy your users are, and in terms of happiness, how much more virality or revenue are they driving towards your game. So that has a good mix of, figuring out what will drive my users. If it's about customer service for my users that improves their Net Promoter Score, maybe I should focus on customer service. If it is about, leveraging other contacts in the game or getting more money in the game, maybe that's what I need to do to increase my Net Promoter Score. So that's definitely one of the ways that I would measure, user satisfaction in a game.
This one is from Manjari. What technology you will prefer for gaming in between Flex and Flash?
I would say Flash because no matter what Apple has against Flash, Flash is the dominant player right now. And Flash has proven to be pretty successful with Zynga games and other games in general, even for mobile phones. There are engines, iSwifter I think is one of them, iSwifter.com, which allows you to import or export your Flash games to other platforms and stuff. So I would say Flash for now.
One more question from Sumit. What are the other platforms to explore like Facebook?
As I said, I mean, Facebook is the leader right now, and Facebook's basically thrown off every other social network. If you want to become localized, let's say if you want to enter the China market, then I'd look at, partnering with Tencent or building games for those kind of platforms. Because China not just has a huge following for social games, they also have a huge monetization opportunity because they have the good infrastructure and everything ready over there. If you talk about the Indian market, I would say look at Facebook, get ready for Google+. If you talk about Japan and stuff, I would say look at Dana. Dana is a social gaming company over there, and they have a platform whose name I'm forgetting. But you can definitely look at that platform. And otherwise, in terms of mobile, I think the biggest opportunity being provided by mobile is by Make33, which is another social mobile networking platform. So these are the platforms that I would probably look at.
One more question from Vardarajan. Well, this will be the final one which we'll be taking due to time constraint. Are social networking and social gaming the same?
No. So, I mean, there's a huge difference, right? Social networking's idea is just to connect people, whereas social games are there to add excitement, add entertainment and fun in those games. So basically what we're talking about is that, okay, now social gaming has become such a huge industry where, you've taken very casual forms of communication and you've added a layer of fun on top of it. So that's essentially what social gaming is. The same way, you can talk about educational gaming, which will just be the education industry with, a gaming layer sprinkled on top of it. So I would say that, social networking is a very Web 2.0 thing where, okay, people just wanted to connect. And social gaming is the evolution of that where, people are now involved more in what comes after just connecting, what do we do? How do we leverage that information? How do we add value? How do we, have more fun with each other?
Thanks, Sudhanshu, for that informative session. I hope that it has given our audience great insight about the social gaming industry. I would also like to thank our participants for making this webinar a great success. Hope for your continued patronage for our further initiatives. The recording of this webinar will be available on TechGig tomorrow along with your queries answered. TechGig is also conducting a project management series in the next 3 webinars starting from August 2nd. The first webinar in this series will throw light on current and future scope of project managers, and our guest speaker will be Ravindra Prasad, Program Delivery Manager, Tesco. See you all on next Wednesday. Thank you.